Emma had always dreamed of that trip. After months of planning and anticipation, the day finally arrived. She and her daughter, Chloe, boarded a flight from London to New York. The destination? A city full of lights, opportunities, and for Emma, a chance for a fresh start. Life had not been easy for them since they lost Ethan, Emma's husband, and Chloe's loving father. He had always wanted to take this trip with the family. And now, even though he was no longer physically present, Emma felt that somehow he was there, watching over them in every detail of the journey. As the plane taxied down the runway, Emma held Chloe's hand, conveying the reassurance she had always tried to provide, even in the toughest moments. Chloe, with her bright, curious eyes, gazed out the window, admiring the enormous plane that would soon take them to a new chapter in their lives. There was something magical about that moment, something both of them felt but could not explain. It was as if the air was charged with possibilities, hope, and a change they desperately needed. The beginning of the flight was smooth. Clouds passed quickly by the window, and the silence of the flight seemed a reflection of the peace Emma sought for her life and for her daughter's life. They were together, and that was what mattered. However, as often happens, calm can be merely the lull before the storm. As the plane soared through the sky, Emma knew that this trip was more than just a simple journey. It was a healing process, a way to find strength in memories and move forward, even when the past seemed to pull them back. And on that plane, heading to New York, mother and daughter were about to discover that even in the most difficult moments, the strength of love and unity could face any adversity. The flight continued peacefully, and the landscape outside resembled a moving painting, with clouds blending into the infinite blue of the sky. Emma and Chloe spoke softly, sharing small moments of connection, like mothers and daughters who share a strong and unbreakable bond. Chloe, with her youthful curiosity, asked questions about New York, about the plans they had for when they arrived. Emma answered with a smile, happy to see her daughter so excited. But as life sometimes surprises us in unexpected ways, that flight, which seemed to be just the beginning of a new phase, took a different turn. Sitting a few rows back, a man watched Emma with a heavy gaze, laden with prejudice. Liam, a passenger who until then seemed just another face in the crowd, broke the silence with a low comment, but loud enough for Emma to hear. His words carried a silent poison, the kind that comes disguised as whispers but cuts as deep as any shout. Emma felt a tightness in her chest. It was not the first time she had faced such a situation, but the pain never lessened. Liam, with his blatant prejudice, cast a shadow over what should have been a moment of joy and anticipation. Chloe, still engrossed in their conversation, did not immediately realize what had happened. But Emma knew that, in that instant, their journey had changed direction. Not in terms of geographic destination, but in something much deeper. Liam's words echoed in Emma's mind, a bitter reminder that even amidst a journey of hope, prejudice could still seep in, like a dark cloud threatening to obscure the sun. But Emma, with a strength only a mother knows, stood firm, refusing to let those words extinguish the light that she and Chloe carried in their hearts. She knew they had to move forward, even if it meant confronting shadows she had hoped to leave behind. Chloe, noticing the change in her mother's expression, asked what had happened. And it was at that moment that Emma realized this would not just be a flight to New York, but also an important lesson for Chloe, one the young girl would never forget. Hello, my friends. I'm here to ask a big favor of you. If you like the videos on our channel, please subscribe and help us reach the milestone of 1,000 subscribers this month. Subscribe and help us make this dream come true. Most of our viewers watch and enjoy the content, but forget to subscribe. So please, help us reach this goal. Thank you very much, and let's continue with the video. Because sometimes the toughest challenges arise when we least expect them. And it is in those moments that we show what we are truly made of. Chloe looked at her mother, waiting for an answer that would explain the sudden tension that had filled the air. Emma, trying to stay calm, smiled at her daughter. But Chloe had already sensed the change. Something was not right. Upon noticing Emma's hesitation, Chloe turned in her seat and saw the man who had made the cruel comment. Her face grew serious, and for the first time during the entire trip, the young girl felt a rage she had never known before. At just 16 years old, Chloe had not faced as many difficult situations as her mother, but what she lacked in experience, she made up for in courage. Without thinking twice, she stood up from her seat, her heart pounding, and walked toward Liam. Each step was fueled by a growing indignation within her, a need to protect her mother, and at the same time, to show everyone that this would not be tolerated. "This is unacceptable," Chloe said loudly, her voice firm but trembling slightly with emotion. She knew all eyes were now on her, but she didn't care. "How dare you speak to my mother like that? You don't even know us." The airplane, once filled with hushed conversations and muffled laughter, fell into a deep silence. The passengers, surprised by the scene, watched intently. Liam, caught off guard by the young girl's boldness, tried to mask his guilt with an arrogant smile, but he could not hide the discomfort he felt. He had not expected to be confronted, especially by a teenager. Emma, still seated, watched everything with a mix of pride and anxiety. Her daughter, her little Chloe, was facing the world with the bravery Emma had always known she had. It was as if all the love and protection Emma had always tried to give her daughter manifested in that moment in the form of courage. Liam, trying to maintain control, muttered something inaudible, but Chloe did not back down. "My mother deserves respect. Everyone here deserves respect. If you can't see that, then you are the one who should be ashamed." Chloe's words hung in the air, filled with truth and determination. It was as if the airplane had been enveloped in a new energy, one that did not allow prejudice or malice any space. The other passengers, sensing the seriousness of the situation, began to murmur among themselves, some even leaning in to see the scene better. Chloe returned to her seat, her hands trembling slightly, but her head held high. She knew she had done the right thing. Emma, with tears shimmering in her eyes that she was trying to hold back, tightly grasped her daughter's hand, conveying all the love and gratitude she felt in that moment. The flight continued, but everyone knew something had changed. Chloe had shown that, regardless of age, It was possible to face injustice with courage and dignity, and on that plane, amidst the clouds, mother and daughter were more united than ever, ready to face whatever came next. The silence that followed Chloe's confrontation was thick, laden with emotions that could barely be contained. As Chloe settled back next to her mother, still trying to calm her racing heart, the tension inside the plane began to rise. Liam, humiliated by a teenager in front of so many strangers, could not bear the thought of being challenged in such a way. His wounded pride pushed him to do something, to react, but he didn't quite know how. Minutes dragged on, and Liam's discomfort was palpable. He muttered quietly to himself, his eyes fixed ahead, trying to contain the anger simmering in his chest. But anger, when bottled up, tends to overflow. And that's exactly what happened. Liam, unable to control himself, abruptly stood up from his seat. The calm energy of the flight was instantly replaced by an almost tangible tension. He began to shout incoherent words, his voice filled with frustration and hatred. The passengers around him shrank back in their seats, some trying to avoid eye contact, others fearful that the situation would spiral even further out of control. Emma instinctively pulled Chloe closer, her heart tight with worry. She knew Liam was about to lose control and couldn't predict what would happen next. What had started as an offensive comment was quickly turning into something much darker. The flight attendant, who had been trying to maintain calm among the passengers, realized that the situation was deteriorating. She rushed down the narrow aisle, trying to reach Liam before he could cause any more damage. But Liam was blinded by rage. He turned to Emma and Chloe, pointing his finger and shouting as if they were responsible for all his unhappiness. The atmosphere in the plane became suffocating, everyone bracing for the worst. At that moment, the gazes of the other passengers were not only on Liam, but also on Emma and Chloe. There was a mix of solidarity and fear. No one knew exactly what to do. Liam's words were laced with venom, and each one seemed to poison the air around them. The flight attendant finally managed to get close, attempting to calm Liam with soothing words, but it was as if he could no longer hear. His face was red with fury, and every muscle in his body was tense, like a string about to snap. The flight, which had begun with the promise of a new life for Emma and Chloe, was now becoming a scene of fear and uncertainty. Emma, feeling the rising tension, knew something needed to be done before things got even worse. She squeezed Chloe's hand, trying to convey strength. But deep down, she knew they were at the mercy of a situation that could spiral out of control at any moment. The confrontation with Liam had transformed into something much bigger, something that no one on board the plane was prepared to face. The tension in the plane was almost unbearable. Liam, consumed by anger, seemed on the verge of completely losing control. The passengers kept their eyes fixed on him, while the flight attendant tried, in vain, to calm him down. The environment, once peaceful, was now charged with a dangerous electricity, as if it could explode at any moment. Then, suddenly, something unexpected happened. A man, sitting a few rows ahead, stood up calmly. He had a presence that immediately captured the attention of everyone around. His name was Lucas, a digital influencer known for his strong stance against social injustices. But there, in the midst of that chaos, he was not just a public figure. He was a man determined to prevent things from getting worse. Lucas walked down the aisle with firm but unhurried steps. There was a calmness in his expression, as if he knew exactly what needed to be done. He approached Liam, who continued to shout, oblivious to everything around him, as if he were alone in his world of hatred. "Hey, buddy," Lucas said, his voice calm but filled with authority. "This needs to stop now." Liam turned to him, his anger spilling over in every word that came out of his mouth. But Lucas did not back down. Instead, he stepped forward, placing himself between Liam and the rest of the passengers like a shield. "You're not going to hurt anyone here," Lucas said, with a calmness that seemed to disarm even the most intense rage. "That's enough." Liam, still seething, tried to push Lucas away, but he was ready. With a swift motion, Lucas grabbed Liam's arm, immobilizing him with unexpected strength. There was no violence in his gestures, only determination. It was as if, in that moment, Lucas had taken on the responsibility of protecting everyone there, especially Emma and Chloe, who watched the scene with their hearts in their throats. The flight attendant, relieved, took advantage of Lucas's intervention to call for help from the rest of the crew. Within minutes, other attendants arrived, and with Lucas' assistance, they managed to regain control of the situation. Liam, still furious, was escorted to a seat at the back of the plane, where he would be closely monitored until landing. Lucas, seeing that everything was under control, returned to his seat. He cast one last look at Emma and Chloe, who responded with a silent wave of gratitude. That journey, which had all the makings of a disaster, had been saved by an act of courage and compassion. And as the plane resumed its peaceful course, everyone knew that on that day, they had witnessed something special. A testament that even in the toughest situations, there are still people willing to do the right thing, to be the heroes the moment demands. Calm returned to the plane, but the experience would mark all those present. Emma, still holding Chloe's hand, knew that this act of bravery had changed something within them. What had started as a trip to New York now held a much deeper meaning. And this was just another part of a journey that was far from over. With the situation finally under control, the tension in the plane began to dissipate, like a storm slowly moving away, leaving behind clean, fresh air. But what had happened would not be forgotten so quickly. Passengers still exchanged glances, trying to process what they had witnessed. Emma and Chloe, despite feeling relief, still carried the weight of what they had experienced. But there, amid the chaos that had been averted, an unexpected gesture emerged, bringing a touch of humanity and care to the moment. The flight attendants, who had witnessed Chloe's courage and Lucas' determination, decided that something needed to be done to ensure that Emma and her daughter could finish their journey more peacefully. They knew that, after everything that had happened, the simple act of sitting back in their original seats wouldn't be enough to erase the scars of that experience. With a gentle smile, one of the attendants approached Emma and Chloe, leaning slightly to speak to them. "Ma'am, we know what you went through wasn't easy. We would like to offer you 2 seats in first class. You deserve a little comfort and peace." Emma looked at Chloe, who was still processing everything, and then back at the attendant. The offer, though simple, carried with it a sense of care and respect that meant a lot to both of them. Accepting that kindness felt like taking a step away from the turmoil towards something lighter and more welcoming. With the attendant's help, Emma and Chloe gathered their things and were escorted to the front of the plane. As they passed down the aisle, some passengers offered them supportive smiles, as if to convey that, in some way, everyone was in this together. First class, with its wide seats and calmer atmosphere, felt like a world apart. As they settled in, Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. Chloe, in turn, looked at her mother and smiled. That smile that only children know how to give, as if to say everything would be all right. The attendants brought soft blankets and hot drinks, creating a small oasis of tranquility for mother and daughter. What could have been just a flight transformed into a journey of growth and bonding for both. The trip, which had begun with a mix of expectations and uncertainties, was now following a path where comfort and safety were being restored, one step at a time. As the plane continued its route, slicing through the sky toward New York, Emma looked at Chloe, grateful for her daughter's strength, and more determined than ever to make this trip a new beginning, full of love and new memories. Because, in the end, what really matters isn't the seats we're in, but the people beside us, who help us move forward, even in the toughest moments. The atmosphere in first class was peaceful, almost as if what had happened moments before was just a distant memory. Emma and Chloe settled into their new seats, enjoying the comfort and space around them. But even in that calmer setting, the events that had unfolded on the flight continued to resonate, not just among the passengers, but beyond, in a place that Emma and Chloe could not yet imagine. Not out of vanity or a desire for attention, but because he believed stories like this needed to be heard, seen, so that people understood that prejudice could not be tolerated anywhere. With a few taps on the screen, Lucas posted the video he had recorded of the incident. A video that captured Chloe's courage, Liam's anger, and Lucas's decision to intervene. He added a simple yet powerful message. Courage is what makes the world go round, not out of vanity or a desire for attention, but because he believed stories like this needed to be heard, seen, so that people understood that prejudice could not be tolerated anywhere. With a few taps on the screen, Lucas posted the video he had recorded of the incident, a video that captured Chloe's courage, Liam's anger, and Lucas's decision to intervene. He added a simple yet powerful message. Courage is what makes the world go round. Today, a young girl taught me the true meaning of that. Almost instantly, the video began to gain traction. Social media, with its power to connect people and spread stories, started doing its work. Likes, comments, and shares began to accumulate. Within minutes, the video was being viewed by thousands, then millions of people around the world. People who, like Lucas, believed that this story deserved to be told. As Emma and Chloe rested in their seats, unaware that they were becoming part of a global narrative, the video continued to circulate. Celebrities, activists, and everyday people from all walks of life began to comment, praising Chloe's bravery and Lucas's resolve. The story of a simple flight from London to New York had become a symbol of resistance against prejudice, all thanks to a girl who decided she wouldn't stay silent in the face of injustice. Emma, still unaware of the viral response, looked out the window, watching the clouds pass by and thinking about how unpredictable life could be. She was immersed in her thoughts about how this trip had transformed into something much bigger than she had imagined. Chloe, beside her, was finally relaxing, oblivious to the whirlwind unfolding online. But as the plane approached New York, something in the air felt different. It wasn't just the end of a flight. It was the beginning of something new. And Emma and Chloe, unknowingly, were about to disembark in a city that awaited them with open arms, where they would be welcomed not just as travelers, but as symbols of a courage that inspired the entire world. When the plane finally landed in New York, Emma and Chloe felt a mix of relief and anticipation. They had left behind the emotional turbulence of the flight and were now ready to explore the city they had long dreamed of visiting. However, what they didn't know was that outside that plane, the world was already aware of their story. As the two made their way to collect their luggage, the buzz around them was palpable, but Emma still hadn't understood why. People looked on with curiosity, some whispering and others smiling in solidarity. It didn't take long for them to realize that something was happening, something directly related to the experience they had just lived through. On the other side of the virtual world, the video posted by Lucas had caused a sensation on social media, prompting the airline to respond to the situation. The viral response brought a wave of support, but also an avalanche of criticism directed at the airline for not managing the situation more effectively from the start. In response, the company decided to act quickly, not just to save its reputation, but to show that it did not tolerate any form of discrimination. Emma and Chloe were approached by an airline employee even before they exited the terminal. The man, visibly embarrassed, explained that the company had been following the events and wanted to express their personal apologies. He led them to a private room, where a company representative awaited them with a friendly but clearly nervous smile. "We want to apologize for what happened during the flight," he began. "We know that nothing can erase the unpleasant experience you had, but we would like to offer you free tickets to any destination of your choice for 1 year." Emma looked at Chloe, still processing the words she had just heard. The two were stunned by the turn of events. What was supposed to be a simple trip now held much greater meaning. Chloe, with her courage, had initiated a chain of events that culminated in this moment when the airline, pressured by public opinion, was making an effort to correct what had gone wrong. Emma, with her gentle nature, thanked them for the offer, even as she tried to absorb everything that was happening. For her, the most important thing was that Chloe knew her act of bravery had not been in vain, and that the world was paying attention. The offer of the tickets was a symbolic gesture, but also a reminder that sometimes justice and decency can prevail, even in the most unexpected situations. As they left the room, tickets in hand and lighter hearts, Emma and Chloe felt that this trip had transformed into something far more significant than they had imagined. New York awaited them, but what they could not foresee was that their arrival in the city would not only be the beginning of a new adventure, but also the continuation of a story that had touched many lives. And somehow, They knew that this experience would shape the way they faced the future, together, with even more strength and resilience. Emma and Chloe exited the terminal, finally free to explore the city they had longed to know. But as they gazed in awe at the skyscrapers of New York, another side of the story began to unfold, a side that Liam had never anticipated. As mother and daughter prepared for a new phase of their journey, the fallout from the video was not only impacting the airline, but also directly affecting Liam's life. The images captured by Lucas, showcasing his unacceptable behavior, were everywhere. Social media was no longer a refuge where he could hide. His name, his image, everything had been exposed to the world, and the world reacted with a force he could not control. Liam, who had returned to his routine after the flight, began to realize the consequences of his actions in a way he never imagined. First came the glances at work, looks he had previously ignored, but now carried a weight he felt with every step. Colleagues who once greeted him now avoided him, and conversations that used to include his name in a friendly tone were now whispered as he passed by. He felt the world around him closing in, as if the very air he breathed was becoming thin. The situation worsened when his company, pressured by the negative exposure and the outcry on social media, decided to take action. An emergency meeting was called, and Liam was summoned for a conversation he knew would not end well. Sitting before his superiors, he tried to argue, but the words seemed to escape his mouth without strength, without conviction. They were clear. His behavior did not reflect the values of the company, and there was no longer a place for him there. Liam left that meeting with a sense of helplessness he had never experienced before. The weight of his actions, which had once seemed like just a moment of anger, was now crushing his life. He realized too late that his words and actions had consequences, and that the world would not simply forget what he had done. In addition to losing his job, Liam was now facing legal pressure. Encouraged by the wave of support they received, Emma and Chloe decided to sue him for damages. The lawsuit was yet another stone in the already heavy burden that Liam now carried. He was surrounded by financial difficulties, watching his future crumble before his eyes, all because of a moment of hate and intolerance. As Liam struggled with the consequences of his actions, Emma and Chloe continued their journey in New York, strengthened by the experience. For them, it was a life lesson that, although painful, made them more resilient, more aware of their worth, and the impact their words and actions could have on the world. Liam, for his part, began to realize that the life he had taken for granted was fragile, and that his choices had shaped his destiny. The fall was hard, but it was just the beginning of a journey he would have to take to find a new path, one where the lessons of humility and regret would be his constant companions. As Liam faced the consequences of his actions, Emma and Chloe continued their journey in New York, leaving behind the turmoil that had marked the beginning of their trip. Each step through the bustling streets of the city seemed to take mother and daughter further away from that dark moment, guiding them toward a new phase of their lives. New York, with its vibrant lights and tireless energy, offered a promise of renewal and hope that both were ready to embrace. Emma, with a lighter heart, watched Chloe run through the parks, explore shops, and laugh at little discoveries that only a city like New York could provide. Seeing her daughter so full of life was a constant reminder that, even in the face of adversity, there was always a new page to turn, a new story to write. And it was in this renewal that Emma found the strength she needed to move forward, to build a future where the shadows of the past held no power over them. Liam, on the other hand, was on a very different path. Unemployed, drowning in debt, and facing a lawsuit, he found himself in a place of darkness he never imagined he could reach. The pride that had guided him until that moment now proved to be a barrier, preventing him from seeing any possibility of redemption. But, as in all stories, even the most painful ones, there is always a choice to be made, a path to follow. As the days passed, Liam began to reflect on what had happened. The anger and resentment that consumed him began to give way to something different, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Regret, not the kind of regret that comes from fear of consequences, but the kind that stems from understanding the harm caused, from recognizing the wounds inflicted on others and on himself. Emma and Chloe, though distant from Liam, could not help but think of the journey he now faced. They knew that justice was being served, but they also understood that true peace would only come when they could leave it all behind, forgiving not only Liam, but also themselves for the scars they carried. Over time, Liam made a decision that would change the course of his life. He sought help, someone who could guide him to rebuild his life, to become a better person. It was a long and difficult journey, full of ups and downs, but gradually, he began to find a new direction. The man who was once consumed by hate and prejudice was now learning humility, empathy, and, above all, the transformative power of forgiveness. For Emma and Chloe, the trip to New York ended with a sense of renewal and a deeper understanding of their own strength. They returned home different from how they had left, carrying not only the memories of an incredible city, but also the lessons from an emotional journey they would never forget. And so, while Liam sought a new life, Emma and Chloe, strengthened by the experience, moved forward, embracing the future with renewed hearts and the certainty that together they could overcome anything. The world continued to turn, and with it, the stories of redemption, renewal, and ultimately, the quest for peace and happiness that each one sought to achieve in their own way. This story shows us that life can surprise us in ways we never imagined. Whether facing prejudice with courage, like Chloe, or learning to rise again after a mistake, like Liam, we all have the capacity to change, to grow, and to find a new direction. But what about you? Where do you see yourself in this story? Do you have something to overcome, someone to forgive, or perhaps a change to make in your life? Sometimes, the most challenging moments are those that lead us to discover the true strength we have within us. So, what are you waiting for to take the next step in your journey? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way, you won't miss any of the upcoming stories we have to share. And before you go, check out the videos that are appearing on your screen now. Each one brings a new lesson, a new emotion, and I'm sure you'll find even more inspiration. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.